Welcome to Find Your Tribe podcast. We're broadcasting from beautiful Portland, Oregon. My name is Annie Lavender Weller. I'm a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians and co-founder of the Leadership Lab, which is a career, academic, and transitional coaching nonprofit. I'm also a serial entrepreneur, author, and International Coaching Federation, ACC certified business coach and consultant. Welcome to my podcast, Find Your Tribe. My name is Annie. I'm co-founder and a career and executive coach with the Leadership Lab.
And I am Destiny, also co-founder and personal and academic coach. I almost forgot what I did for a living with the Leadership Lab as well.
And today is Attacking Your Scheduling Nightmare.
Ooh.
So, Destiny, what are we going to talk about today?
Today we're covering a whole range of issues. So this kind of came up when I was trying to figure out scheduling. So, for example, my partner and I, we schedule everything. We have a shared calendar. And all of a sudden, I realized that literally we had every single day scheduled. And then my work, every single moment of every single day was scheduled. And so Annie and I decided to do a podcast where we really just kind of broke down scheduling your life, scheduling your social life, and scheduling your work life. And today we're going to talk about what we do, some tips and tricks, as well as some of the tools and resources that the two of us use to kind of keep everything in track and on pace.
So why scheduling is a nightmare, I had to ask myself this question today. And number one, family members don't care about calendars. That's one thing I found out with my husband. Like, he doesn't care about his calendar. He cares about his work calendar, but not our personal calendar, which is frustrating.
Yeah, and for mine, Adrian and I, my partner, we're so obsessed with the calendar that we're constantly on it. Like, we put everything. There's like, we're going to make bone broth right now, and we're going to do that from this time to this time, and then we're going to go do this, and we're going to make sushi, and then we're going to, like, every moment is scheduled. And it comes to the point where for us, it'll be like one night a week.
Mm-hmm.
That we have open. And so, yes.
And, like I said before, my husband doesn't care about his calendar. No. Producer Greg, do you care about your calendar?
I do care, yes. I pay close attention to the calendar.
I got to introduce our producer, Greg. You'll hear his voice. I want to say he's kind of voice of reason between the two sisters once in a while.
Yep.
So if we get in an argument, you might hear his voice pop in when we ask his opinion.
He's like the referee.
The referee. So also, a lot of people think that it's too hard and it takes way too much time to schedule things and to get even started, which I understand because it took me, I've been a professional for 15, 20 years, and I finally feel very comfortable probably the last 6 months, year. Mm-hmm. And I think it also helps that I got a little coaching from you, mm-hmm. and also I really got rid of a lot of the crap that I was adding into my life. And I mean crap by reading books on how to schedule your time as a creative person.
Yeah.
I'm just making that up. I'm sure that book's out there somewhere.
Yeah, but we're not talking about that one in particular. Yeah. But it's true, it's hard. And in all the time I've had coaching, this is one of the things that comes up the most often. And the problem is kind of twofold. On one hand, or more than twofold, I guess. On one hand, it's overwhelming, right? You look and you go, well, how am I supposed to schedule my time? Do I need to chunk out all the time? Should I just have a list of things that I need to do? And then, honestly, you got to have some grit. It's really easy to just give up, right? Like, you do something for a week, it's not working, and you're like, well, or it's not working, you're like, whatever. Maybe I'm just not a scheduler. Maybe I'm just like a go with the flow, which you might be, but there is some worth in having at least a little bit of your life scheduled.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's very important because I am, can I say the word anal retentive?
I don't know. We're going to say it, and then we're going to see what happens.
I'm so embarrassed because I've had people come up behind me at work to look at my calendar, and they're like, oh, it's color-coded. Mm-hmm. I'm like, hell yeah, it's color-coded.
Well, you have to organize it.
You have to organize it.
And it has to look good. It has to be cute.
Yeah, because if it's not attractive, you're not going to look at it.
Exactly.
Or maybe that's just our thing because we're sisters. But going into the different types of calendars, I know we wanted to talk about personal and social life calendars. Mm-hmm. So what's some of the challenges that you've faced?
So I used to be on the opposite end of the spectrum where I never scheduled anything. I was like, I'm just going to kind of go by the seat of my pants. Mm-hmm. You know, my work was always like exceptionally scheduled. But then when it came to my home life, I was like, whatever. And,
sound like my husband. That drives me crazy.
Right? And and while there were times it wasn't bad, I got to the point where all of a sudden I would forget about an engagement, or I would like double or triple book myself. And then I've also been on the opposite end of being so overscheduled that you feel like you can't breathe.
Yep.
Sometimes. Mm-hmm. What about you? What have you?
So I have, overscheduling. I have a few friends that are they are entertainers. And so one night I had to go to 5 different venues.
Yeah.
I had a cocktail at each venue. One cocktail.
And Annie is a bit of a lightweight, so I'm going to be honest, she was probably a little plastered.
But I started at 7, went for the first venue, stayed for about half an hour, 45 minutes to finish my one drink, talk to friends, go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. So 5 events is the most I've ever done. Mm-hmm. But, that didn't stop me. Sometimes I would have 2 events. I would go to, honest to God, I would go to an officer's ball with my husband in Salem, and then we would have to go to a birthday party. Annie in a ball gown, Michael in his dress blues in a bar.
This isn't something that surprises me.
Because we had to go to this birthday party because his friend was from out of town, but at the same time, we had this gala we had to go to.
True.
I mean, that's the most extreme in regards to dress.
Yeah.
Dress-wise, wearing a ball gown to a dive bar.
Yeah, it's pretty extreme. But I think basically kind of like the point we're trying to get to is that everyone has challenges. Everyone has a different thing, right, that they do. Sometimes it's wearing a ball gown to a bar, and sometimes it's saying, okay, every moment of my Saturday and Sunday for the next 6 months is already figured out. So we'll just talk about, we'll start with personal and social life. That's kind of we'll start there, and then we'll jump into work life. So I'm curious, Annie, do you use shared calendars? And how does that work for you?
We do, and I hate to say this, I do force my husband to sit down on a Friday night during date night, right before date night, or on a Sunday afternoon, and we go through the calendar together. And also, his calendar is on my calendar, so I can see when he does put something in. My husband is not as busy as I am, but he has his military duties. He has birthday parties, baby christening. I can't say that word.
Baby christenings?
Christenings. Yeah. Thank you.
What calendar do you use? Do you use Google Calendar?
Oh, Google is far the best thing that was ever invented. I love you, Google. I love you. I would marry you.
Seriously.
Seriously love Google.
It's so good. And Adrian and I do the exact same thing. We have a calendar. It's our shared one. We each add to it because we each have our own personal ones. And then we have this one together. And I check it like every day because we have the stuff that we're doing together, which is a lot. And then she has a ton of work events. And then I have some work events. And we actually started, one thing that I would really recommend to all the listeners is if you do find yourself being really highly scheduled, I found that there are certain days a week I just put in there and I block off from like 6 to 10 p.m. No plan. It just says no plans.
Yeah.
And then that's like a red, do not make plans or else bad stuff will happen.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it would be. But
another thing that I've done is I have made too many calendars.
I know. I have access to them.
Well, because I have another personality called PDX Foodie Girl. So that's my food blog. And then I have my food events on that. Then I have the Leadership Lab. Then I have my personal. But then also on my personal, I have my old personal account. So... But what I ended up having to do was I just took out all the calendars except 2.
Yeah. And
I went down to 2.
Yeah. And that's something that is also kind of one of our recommendations is if you find yourself creating like, okay, here's Destiny's personal one, here's Destiny's this one, here's this, and this, and this, and here's our shared one, you're going to be overwhelmed with your calendars and you're never going to check it. You're going to go in and be like, oh my gosh, I have to do 25 things tonight, when in reality, they're all, because your calendars are going to sync, and then you're going to end up having 20 things on there that tell you that you're going to the gym.
Yep.
Which is not useful. So have certain ones. If you can have them all overlap, that's great. But just keep it simple. That's like the most important thing, is keep it simple.
Definitely. And one of the great things that you were talking about was, scheduling blocked out items. And the 3 things, well, more than 3 things, is that I block out is my meditation time. So every day at 10 a.m., I meditate. It might be 10 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but I sit on the ground in my office, I turn on my meditation, and I do at least 10 minutes. That grounds me, and also what it does is it helps brighten up my day. I don't know how it clears my mind. Yeah. But also, I love Nosby. Did I say it right, Destiny?
You
She
did.
makes fun of me because I mispronounce words all the time.
That's what sisters are. She calls it Nobies, and I kind of give her the look like.
My husband makes fun of me, too. He tells me to use my words. I know that probably sounds rude, but I don't use words sometimes.
It's adorable.
So Nosby does goals and other things. I'll be reviewing that later. But also, it gives tasks that I need to accomplish by whatever day. So every day in the morning, I do write about a paragraph of my morning reflection. I write also in the same little notebook, because I do like pen and paper still. I'm old-fashioned. I write about my fitness motivation that day. And I do an evening reflection. And also, I like to just, take my time in the morning. So I have that blocked out. I also have exercise. So I like the hot yoga, and I do the CrossFit. And also, I want to run a marathon this year. So I've blocked out times to do these things. And not only does that help me do and reach my goals at the same time.
It does, and it kind of reflects back to our first podcast, the book that I was reading, the Write It Down, Make It Happen, and it's true. And it's so funny, as you were talking, we're so the complete opposite. So CrossFit and hot yoga, I'm sure everybody loves, or a lot of people love. They're totally great.
I don't know very many people.
I hate them.
Okay, here comes producer Greg again. Do you exercise and like the running? And because I know you run.
I just run. Yeah. I have no idea what it is you're talking about when it comes to hot yoga. I'll be honest. I am completely lost on that end.
That's okay. That's fine. But yeah, when it comes to those, so what I do, so Annie, you block out your times for meditation, for reading, for exercise. And I recommend definitely blocking out times every week. So I block out days we're not going to have plans. I actually am a huge fan of pen and paper. So every day I get my legal pad out. And I write down all the things I need to do for my personal life. I make my goals for my work life. And then any other tasks, if I need to get my car registered or whatever. And then on our refrigerator, I actually have a whiteboard, and every week, once a week, Adrian and I sit down and we decide what we're going to have for dinner, and we go through all of our cupboards and we figure out, what do we have that we can use? What days are we having people over? How much food do we need to get X, Y, and Z? And it's funny because it actually has saved us so much money.
And time.
Because then I know, okay, sometimes I'm looking forward to Friday. It's going to be so good.
Well, I do the exact same thing. You have a smaller one. I have one on the wall. It's bigger.
It's 20 times bigger than mine. It's
I know.
Huge.
But I have to write a to-do list for my handsome, handsome husband. Right now, he's cooking dinner, and I'm surprised I haven't gotten a bunch of text messages on how to roast radishes. So, yeah, we'll see what happens when I get home. But I also take that schedule that's on the whiteboard on our food, and I also put that on our calendar, on our Google calendars. So we know what's for dinner. So if my husband doesn't look at the whiteboard, which I don't even know if he really knows it's there, but he has it on his Google calendar, and he knows exactly what he needs to cook. So another thing that we chatted about too was color coding and how important, to me, color coding personal to work and like
we're just organizing it and whatever way makes sense to you. Like we do color coding. If you're not a fan of color coding, you can figure out some way, but it has to be organized in a way that your brain works. Otherwise, if you just have 20 sheets of paper lying around, you're going to look and be like, wait, why am I doing X, Y, and Z? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
So another thing I want to discuss, I think is very, very important about your personal and social life, and this will go into your work life and schedule, but the importance of saying no.
Yeah.
I think a lot of don't say no. And I think these are 3 things that I do to help me. So when somebody invites me to something, as long as it's not last minute or family, I give myself 24 hours to respond. I don't respond to a maybe. I don't respond, let me get back to you. I take 24 hours to really think, like, is this going to benefit me? Is this something that's going to fit my schedule? I just, especially with invitations, we get invitations for lots of things. So, I mean, galas and, social events. So we really think about, like, do I really want to go out on a Friday night when that's date night with my husband?
Yeah, it's true. And I think it is really important to figure out a balance for you and to be able to say no, because the reality is, especially as you get a little bit older, the people that are in your social life, for me, like, they become more and more like family. Like, your social circle kind of shrinks, but they get more important. And so saying no to somebody that you really care about to do something is incredibly hard. I don't have the same hard and fast rules as Annie. I tend to kind of go with the flow.
But I'm the older and the wiser sister.
Yeah. Sure. But it's true. And a lot of it, too, is that, like, with Adrian and I, like, we have to make the decision together. Like, neither one of us, unless, like, with certain occasions, are going to just automatically be like, absolutely. There have been times when we have, and then I've had to talk about it. But generally, you have to kind of decide together. But regardless, it's boundaries. Like, if you tell every single person, okay, great, I'm going to help you move, and I'm going to go do this with you, and we're going to do this, and then all of a sudden you have no time for yourself. Ever.
And I think that's a big thing nowadays is we need to have time to ourselves, time away from television, our laptops, our iPhones, everything.
Yeah. Well, just having recharge time is so important. And there comes a point where it kind of sucks to have to schedule in recharge time. And so basically, like, this whole thing is about figuring out what works for you, being able to say no.
But I think that, makes you kind of like an adult.
I'm kind of...
See, then my big sister's coming in again.
I know. It's like I'm growing up and it's weird. I need to get my Legos out or something.
So my second one is never offer a maybe unless you're going to do it. When you say maybe... Why didn't you just say yes?
No. Everybody knows on Facebook when you invite somebody, if somebody says yes, they might go. If somebody says maybe, they're not going. If somebody says no, they maybe don't like you.
But if you verbally say maybe, you go. I mean, not you go, but you are saying yes to me. If you verbally say something to somebody and say, well, maybe, how difficult, I know it for me personally, it's difficult for me to back out and say, sorry, I just can't do it if I say maybe. So that's why you take the 24 hours to, like, reflect, talk to your partner or your cat.
Yeah.
Because I was single for a long time.
Well, and it's part of it.
Lots of cat time and dog time.
Well, and saying maybe, I've gotten in trouble with this personally. Sometimes when people say maybe, or when I've said maybe in the past, it's you maybe don't have the, like, you don't want to let somebody down by saying no, right? Like, you don't really want to do it, or you don't really have time, but you feel like if you say no, they're going to be disappointed, and nobody wants to disappoint the people they love. And so the thing that's so important to remember is that if you're saying maybe, somebody might be counting on you.
Yep.
And I'm coaching myself a little bit here, because I'm sure that some people I know are going to be like, Destiny, you told me maybe and not showed up. And so just, if you can't do it, be clear, be honest, and that's your life, and you don't have to make excuses.
Well,
for
and
if you
that
can't
really
go.
runs into setting boundaries. So, and also when you set boundaries, freaking stick with them. Don't waver back and forth.
Yep.
Because part of saying no is establishing boundaries at work and home. You have to be clear with them. You know, you have to be clear with your partner, your husband, your wife, your cat, your coworkers.
It's true.
You have to have clear boundaries. And, sometimes I've had clients that have written down boundaries because I had one client that was having an issue at the place that she was working because the place she was working, they didn't have boundaries. And so when they would ask her to do something or something, she felt obligated because there was no set boundaries whatsoever. And it was driving her crazy.
Yeah.
And so she had to find a new position somewhere else.
To not feel so crazy.
And then we had a whole session about, so what are your boundaries that you are going to set with your new employment?
I've had that that talk so many times with.
It sounds so mean when I said that.
Well, no, it's true though. Like, I've coached a lot of students, and a really common thing that happens is you start going back to school. Your job says, I'll only work you 20 hours a week. And your family says, oh, we understand you're going to school. Within 2 months, your work's giving you 30 hours a week. And your family doesn't understand why you're sitting in front of the computer all the time. And so setting boundaries and being firm, but being gentle, not firm and gentle, right? So being understanding and explaining the why. So many people will just say, well, I can't do that, and then get mad. And it's like, well, did you communicate clearly what you needed? Because if you're not communicating clearly to a person, then they're not going to understand why. You can't just expect somebody to read your mind and have something happen because, surprise, we're not mind readers. I mean, at least I'm not, and I don't think I know anyone that is. So,
well, I'm sure we can find someone that thinks they are.
Oh, I'm sure. We are in Portland.
Yeah. So, to recap on personal and social life, what we can do, share our calendars with your family and significant others, color coding, scheduling time out for yourself, the importance of saying no, giving yourself a 24-hour pause period, never say maybe unless you're going to do it, unless you're on Facebook, and then you can say maybe.
Maybe means no.
Maybe means no. Set your boundaries, and not only setting boundaries, but would help is to write your boundaries down and review them.
Yep.
So that leads us into work life.
Yay. So work-life balance, a lot of this stuff, or a lot of these things are going to be pretty similar. The difference is that jobs are so different, right? So one person could have a day job in an office in executive building downtown Portland. The next person's job could be working from home in outside sales. The next person could be in the military. The next person could be
a nurse
or a dancer or...
But they all have common things. We have calendars, we have meetings, and we have things that we have to do that we're responsible for to make our job possible.
So basically just listen to what we say, make it work for you. See what works. Because some people don't have calendars for their jobs.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy to think, but there are some jobs where...
Even when I was a waitress and in grad school, I had a calendar.
You do, but they're different. So, like, my calendar now is very different from calendars that I've had in the past at different jobs, and it's very different than, like, some students that I've had in the past coaching. It's not quite the same.
Okay. But I think everybody should have a calendar. I have friends that have children that have calendars that are more extensive than my calendar.
No, thank you.
It's crazy. But so scheduling your work life, the first thing I want everybody to know, or we want everybody to know, is keep it simple. Keeping it really simple. Simplify your commitments. Maybe look at the boards and committees, the organizations, and other type of things that are really not value added. I know that's with me, with my career and executive. But with work, for you, for instance, your commitments might be different. And you need to simplify some probably things too, because I believe you're, doing some things.
Well, so it just depends on what your outside things are. So like whatever the things are that you have that are extraneous, that you can kind of cut the fat from, right? Do you need to be a part of that committee? Do you need to be the president of your neighborhood association? Is that actually going to do something for you? Do you need to sign up for all of those extra clubs? Do you need to be on the birthday committee at work?
Correct.
Probably not. Maybe, but probably not.
And another thing is regards to scheduling work, really choosing what works for you. You know, identifying your work needs. That goes into what we were just talking about, where you might be a dancer. You might be a nurse. You could be a garbage collector. Everybody has their schedule and their own scheduling needs. So you need to really think about, what are my needs? And like I said, pen and paper, or pencil or paper. Write it down.
Yeah. Write a pro-con list and figure out what, like Annie was saying, what is it that you need? What is it that you value? What you're getting out of it? And if you're having a difficult time figuring out if you need it, write it down, think about it, discuss it with someone, bring it to your coach, whatever it is, because sometimes it's like when you go to the grocery store and you put everything in your cart and you get out and you're like, I need all of this. You know, I need to have all these things. And then all of a sudden you realize, like, well, I probably don't. I just want it. Yeah. So needs and wants.
So these are two things that I've done to simplify my calendar and my life in general, my work life, is minimizing meetings and saying no to meetings that aren't essential. Asking myself, do I really need to go to that meeting? Can, so-and-so handle that meeting for me? Because we do have kind of a receptionist / person that we share, and could she help, maybe take that meeting?
Yeah. And also managing up. If you don't have a role where you have the ability to say no to meetings, because oftentimes, you don't, right? Your manager puts a bunch of stuff on your calendar. Most managers I've ever met, they are very open to a discussion over the necessity of meetings.
Yep.
Because they think they're all important. But if you can sit down and talk to your manager in your one-on-one, or, for a coffee walk or whatever other buzzword we're going to say today, and you let them know a very good reason why you shouldn't have to go to that meeting or training and what you're going to be doing with your time instead, that they're going to love. Number one, that you're taking the initiative, and it's going to show that you really care.
But if you're going to do this and say no and discuss these things, come up with 3 to 5 reasons why, that are very tangible, that you can discuss with your supervisor.
Yeah.
Because if you just go in and be like, I don't want to do this.
Well, no, you should never.
Oh, no. It's
unless you don't want to have your
I've
job.
had employees come up to me and go, I don't want to do this. And I just look at them like, well, that means I have to do it, but wait a minute, I'm your boss.
Yeah, exactly. So just make sure there's always the why. I think that's the thing I say the most common is, let people know your why. Don't just think they can read your mind.
Yep.
Explain eloquently, and being able to explain is going to do wonders.
Yeah. And then the other thing that has saved me, I don't know why I haven't done this forever, but agendas. So what I do is I send agendas, even with my sister and I when we meet, because we do have meetings, one-on-one meetings to discuss business issues. We set an agenda. If it's not 24 hours, sometimes it's even a week in advance, where this is the things that we are going to discuss on our Saturday morning meetings. And also, I feel like it's really critical to ask whoever's setting up the meeting, if you're not setting it up, to ask for an agenda. Because agendas keep you on track, for the most part.
They do. I have to agree that they do. I think they lead into really good facilitation skills when it comes to meetings and being able to kind of drive the bus a little bit. I like to leave a little bit of mystery in my
of course,
agendas,
there's going to be... Yeah, you don't spill the whole entire beans. It's kind of like doing a PowerPoint.
But it's nice to let people know what to expect.
Yeah, you need
it's like when you're going to a wedding. You want to know what's going to happen at the wedding. Like, when do I need to sit down?
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, no.
No?
I've been to weddings where I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyways, love you. So, to recap that, in scheduling your work life, keeping it simple, simplify your commitments, choosing what works for you in regards to what you do for a living, minimize meetings, and also setting agendas or asking for agendas to be sent to you.
So we've talked a lot about work life today. We've talked a lot about agendas and everything else, agendas and calendars and balance.
Color coding.
All the things. But basically...
Getting your partner involved.
Exactly.
Keeping it simple.
Do all the things. So keep it simple. Get people involved. Figure out what works for you. If you're having difficulty, honestly, get a coach. You can talk about this in 1 hour period, and it can make a world of difference.
Find Your Tribe podcast is a conversation with guests addressing all aspects of what makes our businesses and personal lives unique. We will balance traditions with new methods, respecting the past while acknowledging the need to embrace new methods and technologies. Finding Your Tribe podcast uncovers the personalities behind the businesses, the leaders who paved the way, and the essential heart of what makes our tribes run. Please visit me at annieweller.com for more information.